Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast. All right. For our final segment today, I thought it'd be kind of interesting. We're a few days off from Avatar, by the way, which
tomorrow.
Yeah. No, it's tomorrow. I thought it was Friday. All right. I thought.
Well, I mean, technically, it started today.
Oh boy.
Technically, it started already, but you know how it is. Like it's officially it's Friday. Yes.
Yeah. That's what I thought. It was officially Friday, but you're right. It's they're starting to get out there. So we'll talk a little bit about it next week. We're going to do our year-end review, though. We're going to do. Everyone's going to pick a. So we have our guest is Kelly Kantrowitz, who is our frequent guest here on the show, but she's also a Rogue writer, and we're going to pick. Each of us are going to pick like our top moment of 2022 and our least favorite moment of 2022 in terms of movies. Like, what was our favorite movies? What was our least favorite? Things like that. We'll have a fun time next week. So we'll dive into Avatar a little bit too, but we'll save Avatar for after the break because I think people give people some time to watch it and things like that. So I thought today, though, because this is pre-Avatar and pre-end of the year for us, we should take a look at the state of the DCEU. DC's trajectory right here has been where Marvel is the poster child for stability, right? I mean, it's had one person in charge of it for the last 14 years now. No, 15, right? I mean, I think it was 2007.
Yeah, I don't even want to count because the longer the count, the older I am. So I don't want to count down. But yeah, it's been a while. It's been over a decade.
DC has gone from not having any presence to had the Christopher Nolan presence. They were in the 2000s the pinnacle of comic book movies, right? The Christopher Nolan Batman movies.
Didn't the first Guardians movie come out in 2014?
Yes.
So yeah, it's been they're going way back.
Oh yeah, no, it's 14 years. 08 is Incredible Hulk, right? I mean,
I think so. Yes.
But prior to that, you had. I mean, he's been in charge for at least a year.
Yes.
So meanwhile, you've had DC was the pinnacle of filmmaking in the 2000s, I think, for comic book movies, right? Like that's what comic book movies aspired to. Spider-Man also had a great run as well. The Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. But in terms of
Sam Raimi, yeah.
In terms of reputation, right? It was like, wow, Christopher Nolan. We everyone should just try to do what Christopher Nolan's doing. And Marvel's like, no, we're going to do this other thing.
Thank God.
And they ended up being like the poster child for stability. DC then goes to the Zack Snyder run, where Man of Steel comes out. And it's different. It's kind of in line tonally with the Christopher Nolan stuff, kind of dark and which is weird because of Superman.
Well, you're overlooking the Goyer years because David Goyer was a golden boy for quite a while, especially after the first Blade movie. And then suddenly he was involved with just about everything comic books.
Yes.
And then so he was originally the golden goose. And I think he was also involved with Batman Begins. But
yes, he was.
Peripherally.
Yeah, he was.
And then Nolan kind of took the crown from there and moved into okay.
Right.
I hear what you're saying.
Then Zack Snyder gets pulled in, and they're like, "You're going to be our Kevin Feige. You're gonna run everything, and you're going to make the movies too." So they're like, we're gonna save a lot of money here. We could hire a guy to run everything, and he could hire guys to make the movies. It's like, no, we're gonna merge that into one. Plus, Marvel spent the last 6 years trying to build up a universe. Let's just throw it all into one movie. This is like that was Superman. Batman vs Superman was essentially the like your cheap uncle's way of getting Christmas dinner, celebrating your birthday, New Year's, and throwing in Valentine's Day just for the sake of like, hey, we could celebrate all three holidays. They're around the same, they're around the same time. Your birthday falls in January. It's great. We'll celebrate it all at once. That's what they tried to do with Zack Snyder, right? That then led to again, the Batman versus Superman debacle, which then led to the Justice League, which then led to them actually coming out with good movies, amazingly enough. Then you had the Wonder Woman. You had, the Wonder Woman movie. You had Aquaman.
Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Shazam, the Joker. That was basically the big... I mean, Man of Steel did not do badly. It didn't do great. It wasn't one of the $1 billion club movies.
No, but it did enough to say, like, Zach could be the guy, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But then, obviously, that all fell apart very fast. And then you had these other slates of movies. And then DC basically says, under Hamada...
Do you honestly think if there was no MCU, that those movies, that the DCEU movies would be considered failures, Because I mean, you got the MCU who's making consistently at one point in their tenure, they were making consistently billion-dollar movies,
Yeah.
right? So now that's the gold standard, right? But I mean, the DC movies, even Batman versus Superman, were not flops. They weren't
Right.
financially, I mean, look, okay, they're honestly saying that Black Adam is a flop. They're honestly calling it that now, even though The Rock has, financial figures that supposedly prove that it's not a flop.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was, I mean, we reviewed it, so I mean, everybody knows how we feel about it. But you know, yeah, I don't know if there was an MCU. I don't know if those movies would be considered failures.
Right.
They're making good comic book movie numbers, It's just that you have this other company that were making astronomical comic book movie numbers. And so now everything is being judged on that gauge, on that scale. And I don't know if it's fair, I also don't think, I think that Kevin Feige is an outlier. I think one guy who could come along and make an entire, like build an entire empire and basically produce over 20 movies all by himself at consistent quality.
Yeah.
I think looking for your own Kevin Feige is kind of stupid.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's
looking for your own Einstein. Like, as soon as we find a guy as smart as Einstein, we'll be just as good as as that company. You're not.
right.
I mean, people like that come once every generation for a reason. All you have to do is plan stuff. It seems like the hardest thing for people to do.
Well, that's what I said. I don't think like a show like Three Pines is reinventing the wheel, but you can tell they planned out how they were going to do it and they're executing it. It's like, that's just what you want. You want like just.
Well, format wise, definitely. I mean, the show in and of itself, what.
Just be
the
like,
show in and of itself is really well done. Mystery.
Just be competent. That's all we're asking.
Yeah,
that's the only reason I'm bringing in Three Pines. I'm like, just be competent.
The genius is the rollout of the show. I think the show is brilliant in and of itself, and it sounds like I'm taking away from it, but I think the rollout of the show is where they really got innovative.
Yeah.
With like, okay, we're going to compromise on giving the people, because everybody wants everything to run weekly because it trends longer, right? And you have a more of an opportunity to turn a show into a phenomenon, as opposed to dropping all at once. That's kind of Netflix's shtick.
Yeah.
And it works for Netflix, but it works for Netflix because they have such a volume of shows on a regular basis.
Yes.
That, they'll hold your interest no matter.
Which, by the way, I think that's coming to an end also, because I think at some point I was reading that they kind of, the model of spend. It's not an open checkbook there anymore.
Well, I mean, that's what HBO is now starting to cut shows because they don't want to, because of all the residuals that they have to pay out to their actors or whatever. Which is, again, that takes us into a question of ethics, because like, look, I pay for your streaming service so I could have those shows. If you're going to just start and because you're walking away from tangible media, because a lot of those shows just don't show up on DVD or Blu-ray or 4K. Right. So it's like, you're just going to decide what I can watch and what I can't watch. And that's unacceptable. I feel that that's unacceptable, but that's a whole different discussion. We're not going to have that discussion.
So we get to this period where they start making good movies. But then, or relatively good, let's say comparatively good. I mean, I enjoyed them. Look, I enjoyed it. I definitely did. But then you're
talking about like Aquaman and Wonder Woman or whatever, or which movies are you talking about?
Yeah, like Wonder Woman, Shazam was good, Aquaman was good. Like these are all comparable movies now to other comic book movies that are out there. I'm not going to sit there and say that the greatest thing I've ever seen, but I'm going to say, wow, what a vast improvement over what came before.
It's a waste of time to sit around waiting for the greatest thing you've ever seen. Anyway,
no, I know, but I'm just
it ain't never gonna happen.
I just don't want to sit here and sound hyperbolic in my praise of those movies, which by the way, I did highly enjoy. So I'm giving them the kudos I think they deserve, right? But then it gets DC Warner Brothers itself gets sold to Discovery, or the merger happens, whatever, and then David Zaslav takes over, and now everything is just, we don't know what's happening. We don't know
It's
what's
a
going to
fire
go.
sale. It feels like a fire sale. Like,
Well, it
yeah, here we
feels
go.
like,
That goes. That
I mean,
goes.
as much as fans are complaining, like, oh, why would you do this and why would you do that? Like, from what I've read, there is significant debt that AT&T accumulated when they bought like Time Warner. Like, basically, AT&T, if you look at them as like the root of the problem, because I'm not going to necessarily, without full knowledge, I'm not gonna throw the current guy under the bus who's like reading the bottom lines, being like, oh crap, this this whole studio is bankrupt and can't do anything. We need to start shedding some money as humanly. We need to start getting some tax breaks like ASAP.
Yeah, that lends to that Hollywood format again, though, doesn't it? Because like if you make like the commercials, that if you make oven mitts,
Yeah.
don't make salsa.
Right.
You stick with the oven mitts, right? But
Right.
they're like, hey, those guys over there are making salsa, and they made
Right.
$100 more than we did last year. We should make salsa,
Yeah.
and and when you make oven mitts, you're not equipped to make salsa. You don't make good salsa when you make oven mitts. So, Warner Brothers should have stuck with being Warner Brothers and stopped trying to be like Marvel Studios. And they probably wouldn't have overextended themselves so badly trying to get those bottom line results, those $1 billion result movies.
Right.
But, I
So
don't
now
know.
everything is in limbo. There's reports from the Hollywood Reporter says Wonder Woman 3 is not moving forward, which obviously has been confirmed. Patty Jenkins came out today. There was a story from her saying, she tried to make it work, just didn't work out.
Yeah, either
Black
she was
Adam.
fired or she quit. So depending on which story you want to listen to.
Correct. Well, yeah, it's I mean, her exact statement was, when there started being backlash about Wonder Woman 3 not happening, the clickbait false story was that it was me that killed it or walked away. Starting to spread. This is simply not true. I never walked away. I was open to considering anything asked of me. It was my understanding there was nothing I could do to move forward at this time. DC is obviously buried in changes they are having to make, so I understand these decisions are difficult right now. So essentially, it feels like it's almost like a cost-cutting move at this point.
Yeah, but
too.
it's a stupid. It seems stupid because
Yeah.
Wonder Woman and Aquaman were the closest they ever got to the DCEU in numbers.
Yes.
And those are the ones that are on the chopping block. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah. There was also a report that Black Adam has officially not. It's not going to get a green. Not officially, but it is reported that's not getting a green light either now.
Black Adam 2, you mean?
Yeah. So that's basically kind of stuck in. It's a one shot and one deal, mainly because overseas, it doesn't seem that it's doing very well, and it's not going to end up, quote unquote, making money.
Mm-hmm.
It says box office, Dwayne Johnson's Black Adam could lose up to $100 million. This was a report, I believe, from Variety. It stands to lose somewhere between 50 and 100 million following a disappointing run in the worldwide box office. So, it stinks because again, I thought it was actually pretty enjoyable. It was very good. So the only movies we have coming out are the next Aquaman movie and the next Flash movie. The Flash movie,
2, Flash 3 is not going forward. They're not going forward with that anymore. So,
well, they're not going forward with anything, and they hired James Gunn to kind of oversee everything. And according to the Hollywood Reporter, they are expected to present him and his partner Peter Safran a multi-year plan for the DC universe, directly to David Zaslav, as soon as next week. So this story was actually written last week. So at some point this week, we are going to see a
they go before the man.
Yeah. What's your faith right now level that this is going to come away and we're going to be in a better spot a year from now than where we are now? What's your faith
tough.
level in this?
It's tough because every prediction I've had about like that's a good idea or that's a bad idea has turned out like the opposite has happened, and it turned out wasn't quite as bad as I thought it was going to be, or definitely wasn't quite as good as I thought it would be. Like, oh, that's going to be amazing. So, like, I mean, a year ago, you predict you're going to get Boba Fett, you're going to get Obi-Wan, and you're going to get Andor. Which one's going to be the best out of those?
Right.
What do you predict?
Right.
But I think. Look, I still think that they're in trouble because I still think that they're chasing Disney.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can chase Disney. I just think you have to come up with something other than that. They've got a 20 movie head start on you. They're already setting the market for you.
Right.
So if you fall short of that market, no matter how much work you did, no matter how well the movie did, if it falls short on that dollar sign, you're a failure, you know? And I wouldn't want to. I'm sure James Gunn can do it because he did Guardians of the Galaxy, which everybody said
Well, that's the one
is
thing, right?
impossible.
Yeah.
But I
And
mean, he also
Peacemaker
did
too. I thought
Suicide
Peacemaker was
Squad.
amazing.
But yeah, but Suicide Squad wasn't that great, and it wasn't that well received, even though it was a home movie. You know, it was a day and date movie. So I mean, he's not Teflon either.
Sure.
And then you already said that the second Guardians movie wasn't as special to you as the first one. So, you know, he doesn't. You know, there is precedent for him not being able to put out consistent work. I don't necessarily agree with your assessment of the second movie.
Sure.
But I understand what you're saying, and I kind of agree. I mean, no one can do that indefinitely.
Right. I mean, look, all three movies are all the all the movies we've mentioned, though, I think are all well done movies in the sense of they're not disasters. Nothing is a disaster because DC's had disasters.
I mean, look, I think B versus Superman was a disaster. The cut that I ended up seeing in the theater was a disaster. The extended cut, a much better movie. Not a great movie, but a much better movie. I think
not a disaster.
I think the B versus S was the problem was the script. The problem was like, okay, we're gonna throw in Doomsday, we're gonna throw in Lex Luthor, and we're gonna throw in Wonder Woman, we're gonna have Batman in it. But you know, like that was a kitchen sink movie.
Right.
That's kind of like Age of Ultron. It's up there with Age of Ultron in that kind of sense. I thoroughly like the Snyder cut for the Justice League, but I mean that could have been the circumstance. We were in the middle of a pandemic and we were all stuck in the house, and you know there was a giant 4-hour superhero movie coming out that we hadn't technically seen before, so that could have colored the experience. I think Wonder Woman was wonderful. I think Aquaman was a surprise.
Yep.
I think
did you hear
I enjoyed.
Wait,
Shazam.
did you hear he might be turning? He might be playing Lobo now instead of Aquaman going forward.
And I think that's kind of.
I think
what are you doing? I don't think that Aquaman is so intrinsically linked to the Snyderverse that you couldn't get away with separating him and doing more Aquaman movies. But if you don't want to, you don't want to. James Cameron's about to come along and make water movies like the next big thing for the next 5 years. So either that or no one's ever going to touch water again, depending on if that movie flops. So, you know, I think we should wait for what Mr. Cameron has to say about making movies in the water. Thankfully, Ryan Coogler got a chance to get there first.
Yeah.
So he's not going to look like a pale comparison to this giant extravaganza that we're about to see this weekend from James Cameron. But
I think what we're going to see.
What's your favorite DCEU movie? Do you have a favorite one?
Probably Aquaman. I don't really say that with much. I would say the Nolan Batman's great, but we're not counting that as the DCEU, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Because the sad thing is, I think they're gonna get rid of James Patterson's Batman.
No, they're not supposed.
I haven't heard that there's a green light. Did you hear that they greenlit another one?
I heard literally today an article that came into my feed was Robert Pattinson's Batman eyed for James Gunn and Peter Safran's DC Universe. So according to Variety, they want to actually fold that and make that the Batman of the ongoing The Batman, like
as
the
long
actual.
As they don't mess with the format too much. I think doing the Batman, it's a different take on it. Like it's not but I think it's a wonderful spin on a character that doesn't really alter the character too much. But they just do like, what if Batman was a detective in a really gritty murder mystery, Like let's just take the gloves off and say he's that we're going to put him in the genuine mystery. We're not going to put him in a movie where he's going to have to figure out how to live without his parents, or he's going to have to figure out how to beat Superman, or he's going to have to figure out how to get the Joker or whatever. It's just like, let's just put him in a film where he has to use his detective skills to figure out who's killing all these people. And I think That movie is wonderful, in my opinion.
Right.
I thoroughly enjoyed The Batman. But I held out no real hope that they were going to keep it going because they always make very bad decisions over there.
Yeah. Well,
but I think that would be my favorite of all of them so far. I did like Wonder Woman. I think that was a very delightfully surprising movie. But 84 was not.
Abysmal. That was trash. That was straight trash. All right, what do you guys think? Do you have faith in James Gunn? Is he going to pull out a Kevin Feige-like miracle? Are we going to see something?
I think it's unfair.
Are we going to see something completely new, though? Maybe let's say, maybe there will be something completely new. That,
good choice, Aaron.
Yeah, I Wonder Woman or Aquaman. I toss up, coin toss for me on those two. But let us know your thoughts. Comment in the comments field. Check us out. We'll be commenting all week long as well too. And next week, as I said, we will be back here. We're going to be joined by Kelly Kantrowitz, podcaster, Rogue writer as well, and we are going to list the best and worst according to us of 2022. We will see you guys next week. Hi guys, Mike Dolce here from the Rogue Wav podcast. If you like this video, please feel free to like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. It really helps us out. Leave a comment, let us know what you'd like to see in future episodes, and tune in every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern for a brand new episode of the Rogue Wav podcast.